Welcome to Talkin' Waukesha, the podcast where every conversation springs to life.
I'm Andrew Nofke.
And I'm Anthony Terrell.
And we're your hosts for today's journey into the heart of Waukesha.
Whether you're a local or just passing through, join us as we explore the stories, people, and hidden gems that make Waukesha truly special.
From community events to personal anecdotes, we're here to bring you the pulse of our vibrant town.
So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into another episode of Talkin' Waukesha,
where every conversation springs to life. All right, we're back for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. We're here with the Chief of the Waukesha Police Department, Dan Thompson. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to get started right away. And first question is, what does a day of the police chief look like? Obviously, there's no typical day, but what does your day kind of entail?
That's what I love about this profession is there really isn't a typical day. Mm-hmm. Every day has its own unique sometimes challenges, but things that happen, and I'll have days that I have scheduled where actually on my schedule there's nothing scheduled. By the time I start my day, it's booked. So on a typical day, if I'm not engaging with the public or meeting with the city administrator or the mayor, doing a lot of meetings, engaging with the officers, and I really think it's important to be present. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's so important is if there's an expectation of our officers to be engaged with the community, we got to be engaged internally. Mm-hmm. That's more than just being present. It's actually showing that you care and showing that you are very interested in your people that you serve with and that they're valued.
So then what would you say some of your favorite parts of then working for the Waukesha Police Department?
So I was thinking about that because, I mean sincerely, is all of them, but I think my most favorite is when when someone comes to you and they tell you how you positively impacted them. So every time you have a conversation with somebody is an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And in that opportunity, you got to be cognizant of that because you never know how you're going to impact people. So I always talk about taking the second. So when someone says something to you, and maybe it might get your blood boiling a little bit, take that first second, take a deep breath. Don't react. Take that second deep breath and respond. By responding to things, you make better decisions, and you engage in conflict better. And by having those opportunities and talking with people and keeping it real with people, it's really awesome when they come back to you and say, hey, because of you, I've done this, and thank you. That's how I measure success, is how we positively impact people and how we positively impact communities, right? And how we positively impact this profession by representing. I think this is one of the most noble professions there is serving the public and leading authentically and showing that we are human beings in this. And I go back to Memorial Day after the Christmas Parade attack. And I was a little nervous because it's the anniversary right after the Christmas Parade. And it's our first parade since that Christmas. When the crowd was giving us a standing ovation, it actually brought tears to my eyes because I'm like, you're giving me a standing ovation when you, the public, get a standing ovation. In this community is one of my favorite parts. I really am impressed with how engaged the community is with our police department. And that's something we can't take for granted. And I love it. So.
And what kind of engagement are you seeing from the community to the police department?
Like, for example, in every aspect, showing up for coffee with a cop, showing up to events that we're having, being engaged with problems, informing us when there's problems in the community. That's all engagement. I mean,
you just had the painting with a pumpkin this last weekend.
We had the painting with a pumpkin. Also, the amount of people that are involved in our Citizens Academy. The class is always full. That is outstanding, right? Talking about engagement, they're actually taking time out of their day to actually go through a Citizens Academy and go through the whole I want to say it's 10 weeks.
Yeah, I was thinking between 8 and 12, but I don't remember for
10
sure.
weeks through the academy. That's impressive.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What that academy is for
Yeah,
those
so
who
what
aren't
the
aware
academy is, the Citizens Academy is where individuals can go through and they actually go through 10 weeks of training with the police, but they get exposed to how a police officer operates daily, and they get to see how we engage with emergency vehicle driving, how we engage with SWAT operations, how we engage with the public with different aspects of policing, how we conduct neighborhood engagement, and then I'll come in and talk about the relationship between the police and the community. And then they get to provide their input as well. Some actually volunteer and get tased. I give them a lot of credit. That's something I never volunteered to do.
Did you have to at some point be tased in your training?
So tasers came out after my time. When I came on, we didn't even have pepper spray when I first started.
Okay.
And so by the time tasers were introduced, I was already at a executive level where I never had to get tased, and I never need to get tased.
See, it's one of those things that, probably the carnal primal part of you is like, yeah, I'd like to experience that.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I don't at the same time.
No. But I give the ones who experience it, I give them all the credit in the world and say thank you. But you get to experience all those different aspects. You get to go to the, see how we do the firing range. And so you really get a personal level experience with daily police operations. And you get to see the humanity behind it.
Right.
But then we also get to be engaged and build those, and they're forever long-lasting relationships with our community. And then at the end, you get a certificate. So I encourage everybody to be engaged with our police department and become a part of our Citizens Academy.
And how often does that program run?
It's usually once a year.
Once a year, okay.
Yeah, once a year. And I have to get back to you on the date of when it starts. I want to say September.
Okay.
Yeah, it usually starts September.
Perfect.
Well, the words that you're speaking have very much warmed my heart, because it's like, wow, I'm glad to hear that our chief of police has such a close and just like passionate drive for the community, and hopefully anyone listening to this too is also like, oh wow, I'm glad to see we have you in the seat for that.
You know what? I want to say that this profession is a calling. I know that God's called me to do this, and I'm passionate about not even just being a servant, but also being a servant leader. So I'll just talk briefly about that if we have time. So I'm a big student of.
Can you bring the microphone closer?
I'm a big student of leadership. I actually have my master's degree in organizational leadership and administration. And in my studies, my main leadership philosophy is leading authentically. And it has 4 premises to it. The first one is being self-aware of your own strengths and weaknesses and being honest about it. You got to be honest about what you're strong and what you're weak at. Next one has 3 parts to it. Emotional intelligence, listen. Take the time to listen. We live in an age right now where everyone wants to be heard. Well, there's another part, we got to listen. The second part, the 3-part tenet, is social intelligence. That means be engaged, right? Be a part of it. Don't point a finger. Actually, be a part of the solution. Be engaged. And the last one is cultural intelligence. Be open. Don't judge by what you see. Take the time to learn the other person's character, because there's so much more inside than what we see on the outside, right? So the third part of my 4 is living a balanced life. And that's where I kind of dropped the ball in my life, because I was so addicted to this profession that my family life suffered. And my wife and kids are rock stars because they're still with me, where I could still do what I'm doing because I love it so much. But you have to have that balanced life.
Right. And that's always the tricky part, is trying to find that balance of
and
doing the job you love and making sure you take care of your loved ones at the same time.
Yeah, and the last one is keep it real. good, bad, ugly, or different, just keep it real. Be honest with people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to share bad news, own it,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it real. By doing that, that's how you actually build trust. And when you build that trust, you get that commitment. When you get that commitment, you actually get the confidence from your community. Then you're actually doing things because we hold each other accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we ultimately want to be, is where the community's holding us accountable, and we have a role in assisting the community and holding individuals accountable as well.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the servant leadership part.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said it's a calling, I have my oldest son. He's 34. He's going to be 35 November 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he was born, 3 weeks old, his seizures are so bad that this is not going to make it through the night.
Wow.
So we had to read him his last rites. And he said he's one really bad seizure away from not being here.
Wow.
Well, he's turning 35.
Mm-hmm.
He's always smiling, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to feed him, I have to bathe him, I have to do all these things. That's God's way of also reminding me that I'm a servant,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are doing something that's greater than us as individuals. So now in his profession, I know I'm doing something greater than me as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
I know our organization is doing something greater than us as individuals. We are, in my mind, we're doing God's work. It's more than just being peacekeepers. We're not here to be community policing. We're here to be neighborhood engaged. We're not here to be policing neighborhoods. We're here to be engaged with the community. There's a difference.
Right.
And it's easy to actually police a neighborhood. That's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so proud of our police department. We have such a deep pool of talent, and I mean it sincerely.
Mm-hmm.
Where engagement is important, and all of our officers actually truly care, not just only about their profession, but how they're serving their community as well.
Right.
So, love it.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked with an officer in the Waukesha police force that doesn't have that very same mentality of, I'm not here to dictate the laws and rules. I'm here to help protect, help engage, help, make sure this community is building and growing itself. I mean, obviously there'll be differences of opinion and squabbles here and there, but obviously, just being those liaisons to help things progress in the right direction and rebuild the community back up in those little tiffs and things like that.
Right, but then we keep it real.
Yeah.
Right, through all of it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and you have some people that talk at this high academic level. I could do that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not keeping real. That's not me. I can honestly say from day one, when I started in 1991 in the City of Milwaukee Police Department to present, I have never changed who I am for what I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still a Dan Thompson. I still do my dad jokes.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to those very
Yes,
here.
and I still do Joe Mama jokes.
I think I've caught on to you finally.
Yes, but there's a reason for that. Smiling is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Positive attitude is contagious. Life's too short not to be smiling.
Right. And allow yourself to be silly, allow yourself to be, genuine with people, because people are like, I'm at work, I have to be this stoic, serious person.
But at the end of the day, you're still human.
Yeah, and the thing is I use this positional authority when I wear my shoulder. But that's managers, I'll say this, managers will manage by their rank.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders will lead by their character, right? But I still have to have this positional authority at times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're able to use your authority when you need to, but you prefer not to if you don't have to.
Hopefully my character will carry the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very rare where I have to raise my voice, or actually I don't. Just by character, just saying the words disappointed carries weight.
Right? Yeah. I've known you for the couple of years I've been with the city, and, just hearing you say, disappointed, even I could feel that. I'm like, oh man, that feels really bad.
I didn't even do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But laughing is so healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And practicing gratitude. That's important. I think sometimes we get so caught up in life that we forget to actually look at who we're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do that. It's It's important.
100%. Yeah.
So I want to kind of connect all these points that you've brought up, and kind of relate it now to your start. You said how becoming a police officer was kind of a calling to you. So can you kind of talk about like what drew you then to become a police officer? Kind of maybe what that calling was or how that was, and then also why you wanted to become a police chief.
Excellent. So I actually wanted to be a bomb tech in the military. And I tried joining all the branches, but I had flat feet at the time, and I had a knee issue where none of the branches would take me. So I found out that the Milwaukee Police Department had a bomb squad, and that they were hiring. So I took the test. I found out in order to be a bomb tech, you had to be a detective. That was my goal. Within 8 years, I became a detective with the Milwaukee Police Department. That same year, I interviewed and became a bomb tech. And in Milwaukee, the bomb squad is like on call, so it's not like a full time. It's on call. So I got to do so many other things. And every 5 years, I did something different within the police department. But out of all those years, I was on the bomb squad for almost 16, 17 years and literally had a blast, no pun intended. And what's cool about the bomb squad is every bomb tech in the country goes to Huntsville, Alabama, Redstone Arsenal base there, and they're all trained the same way at the same school by the FBI and the military.
Very neat.
So I can go into a bomb unit in Hawaii or Oregon, and we're all trained the same way, so we can
Protocols
interact.
are the same, and everyone's going to have the same SOPs.
Other departments, like their SWAT teams, are different, and their operations. Bomb squads we're all trained the same. So when I started, there was about 2,000 bomb techs in the country. Now there's about 3,000, so we're like a small knit group. But that's one aspect. I got to do so many awesome things in my profession where I'm like so blessed. So every assignment at the time, I can honestly say was my most favorite assignment at the time because it's a mindset. I never let myself get caught up in things I couldn't control. I'd focus on what I call my bubble. What can I influence? And that's where I'd focus my energy, and then I'd put 150% into making my bubble the best bubble it can be, whether it's engaging with citizens, whether it's arresting gang members at the time, whatever it is, I put 150% into my bubble. And that's what made my job so much fun, is because I never got caught up let myself get caught up in the negative stuff. Yeah, so now, fast forward, I ended up becoming an inspector. Well, let's go back. So I'm a detective, and some of my classmates became lieutenants, and they actually did an intervention on me. And they said, you need to take the test to become a lieutenant in the Milwaukee Police Department so you can use that positional authority to influence more of your team members. In 2015, I became a lieutenant. I started working at the Fusion Center, worked my way up to inspector. Now I'm inspector of police. Now it's in 2020. And in 2020, I get a call on a Saturday from someone saying, hey, someone named you as being a possible good candidate to apply for the Waukesha Police Department. So I had no intentions of being a police chief. Had a top secret clearance. I was doing all kinds of stuff with the DNC. I was leading that DNC operation. So I'm like, I could write my ticket, doing some type of secret squirrel thing, right?
Right.
So he tells me this on a Saturday. And I said, well, I'm doing a once-lifetime opportunity for this DNC. And he tells me, he goes, well, Waukesha Police Department is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that kind of struck me on it. I'm like, So I'm like, when do I have to have the paperwork in? He goes, Monday. So I got it all together.
Nice prompt time frame for that.
Yeah. I get it all together and submitted my paperwork. My first interview, I worked it was like 23 hours straight. So I told him what you're going to get is raw. And the rest is history. I'm so blessed to be here. So I really didn't have intentions to be the police chief. I think that was God's hand played a role in saying this is where I needed to be. And I'll say this. When I retired from the Milwaukee Police Department, I had this attitude that I survived. Coming into Waukesha, I did not know that all those experiences from Milwaukee was going to help me help my team in this community on the worst day where I saw the best. I saw the best in our first responders. I saw the best in our city government. I saw the best in our community. It was incredible. And our neighboring partners, I saw the best in them as well. How everyone came together. So all that, I think, is the man upstairs plan. And I think he's the one that kind of guided my hand to being a police chief, because I was actually, when I was going through my master's degree program, I was going to actually go to theology so I could be a youth pastor.
Okay.
But something guided me to do the leadership thing, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
So, and I think the reason is for me to be here with you today is why I'm here. So I hope I answered that question about that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of us, honestly, that kind of have that same kind of a calling where we all started with the city shortly before the tragedy happened, and it's like, obviously there's a reason we were led this direction.
And you bring up a good point. Everyone played a role, and everyone was impacted by that. It wasn't just the people on the street. It wasn't just first responders. It impacted so many people.
Yeah, I mean, there was, the outreach was incredible. I mean, even just the weeks following it, where we had the blue lights, and we had the map of where blue lights were. We had, I think, almost every U.S. state had at least one person. A couple countries in Europe that we had people that had lit a light for us, and
So I want to touch on that too. Is that actually started my own personal journey? Is and the community and the city's helped me with that too. Is graduating from trauma, which we all experience, and post-traumatic stress, to post-traumatic growth, and learning that journey of how to grow from tragedy. That's actually sent me on a course now of going to other communities that's involved in mass casualty events and helping them with their process on post-traumatic growth. And then really defining what resiliency is. And now I'm passionate about actually teaching resiliency on the front end to help officers learn to cope in a positive way with trauma. So it doesn't create victims. What it does is actually teaches them to be stronger. I can say I'm stronger today as a result of that Christmas parade attack. I can say that our community and police department is stronger today. I can say our fire department is stronger today, and our city government is stronger today post-parade.
Right.
Yeah. Because we did grow. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt us. It hurt us bad, right?
Yeah.
And it still hurts. But we're taking that pain and we're doing something positive with it. So...
And especially when trauma takes so many different forms, and so like it can, like one little thing could be, the flap of a butterfly's wing to someone, and they can adapt and overcome, but it may be, a crushing weight on their back for someone else. So trauma taking different forms and being able to be resilient and kind of come through those difficulties.
And each person handles trauma differently. So we should not be judging people, because some people are very stoic. Some people are very emotional. Don't judge.
Yep.
Just what we need to be is give the benefit of the doubt and be there and help others.
Yeah.
Instead of pointing a finger, hey, how can I help you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of touched on this question we've got here. So you've worked on many task forces, agencies, all these sorts of initiatives, basically. So what's been your favorite assignments that you've been given, or tasks that you've been given? Is it just the bomb squad, or are there other ones where you've had
like
more?
I said, all of them were like, when I worked at high intensity drug trafficking area, we got to work a case that it went up to the highest levels. It was like movie type stuff. It was a phenomenal experience. And then I worked Joint Terrorism Task Force for 4 years, and that was a great time working with the FBI and working domestic and national terrorism cases. I got to work homicide for 6 years within the Milwaukee Police Department and really learn how to do investigations and interviews. And at that time, I really loved doing that But I really love being the police chief now with the Waukesha Police Department because I have such a phenomenal team, and it's about culture.
Mm-hmm.
Culture eats policy for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a relationship-driven culture, I just love coming to work every day. I love problem solving. I love watching my team problem solve things. I'll never forget when I first started at the Waukesha Police Department. I'm with the command team. Like, you guys are doing such a great job. I feel like I'm just a pretty face. And one of the captains goes, go look in the mirror.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, we're going to get along great, right?
Some familial ribbing is fine, yeah.
Yeah. But that is good. And there's a reason why I do the dad jokes. There's a reason why I smile, and there's a reason why I say hi all the time. And actually say hello and how you doing first before we get in the shop. Because we're thermostats. Each and every one of us are thermostats. If we come in hot, that's the culture you're going to create. If we come in cold where we don't care, that's the culture you're going to create. But when you come in showing that everyone is valued and that you do care about their success, that's where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be sincere with it.
Yeah.
And you got to keep it real. And then throw a little dad joke in there and you're good.
Yeah.
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 So who would you say has been your biggest mentor or influence in your career?
So one, I'll say two. The first one is Pat Mitchell. He's currently a chief for the city of West Dallas. And him and I kind of came up together in Milwaukee Police Department. He was my supervisor for a while in Milwaukee Police Department. But now he's a chief of West Dallas. I'm a new chief in Milwaukee. And here's what I learned. You never want to be on an island. What I mean by that is you should never be afraid to ask other people and have that support network to help you through things, right? Well, he's always that person I go to, like, hey, I got this going on. What's your thoughts? And he'd always give me good information and support.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my work part of it. My other mentor is my wife. She's 5 foot tall. She's a pistol. And she'll... I think she wouldn't say it, but I think she's one of the most smartest, emotional, intelligent type people.
Mm-hmm.
And she really knows how to get the best out of me and actually get me out of my my zone. So as a police officer, we'd have what's called hypervigilance. You're always at this high alert level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you come home, what I learned recently is it takes 18 to 24 hours for cortisol. That's what fight or flight to leave your body. Well, she would make it a point to help me be engaged at home to override that cortisol level. So because I'd come home and she'd be like, "What do you want for dinner?" Like, I don't care. She'd force me to say something. And that was actually really important because it was getting me out of that low part of the hypervigilance and getting me to engage with the family. So now I'll be like prepared when I'm driving home.
You know you've got that. You know you have that question coming.
And then she'll ask me, and I'll tell her, and she's like, "Well, we're not having this." Right.
Hey, it's something, I guess. Yeah.
And she'd ask me, "How are you?" I'd always be fine. Well, she forces me now to
elaborate.
Talk. Yeah, and she forced me to actually not be a police officer at home. Her and my kids, they forced me to be a husband and a father. That this badge, this patch that I wear, that's nothing at home. I'm husband and dad.
Yeah.
At home. So, and I'll never give you another good example. So, after the Christmas parade attack, I was so really making sure that the officers were getting help that they needed. The team was getting help that they needed. I really dropped the ball with myself. And my wife's like, "You're doing all this stuff. Who are you talking to?" And then I went to this International Chief of Police Association Wellness Symposium and talked about the parade. And there's all these therapists in there and counselors and law enforcement peer support people. Well, when we were done, we're at this little cocktail hour, and they're like, "Who are you talking to?" I made all these excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because of my wife being a mentor, saying I needed help, I ended up going to talk to somebody. And this is 9 months after the parade.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up talking about infant homicide that I kept in my head
Mm-hmm.
somewhere back there over 20 plus years ago. Then the floodgates opened.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the beginning stage of my post-traumatic growth journey.
Right.
It was 9 months after the Christmas parade attack. And that really opened my eyes to how I've been operating my whole life, not knowing that I was affected by things.
Mm-hmm.
And that really made me a better human being, being vulnerable and saying, hey, something hurt me and it's okay to be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to actually thrive because that's a choice.
Right.
And I have such a good support system. My wife is that mentor that helps me, and then the other one is my faith helps me, right? And having that good network of coworkers, that good network of personal friends, and having things that you like to do. I listen to audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
and I listen to stuff, so I make it a habit. And building rituals is really important. I make it a habit of, when I leave work, I'll put in a sci-fi audiobook that's so far from the truth, but that gets me to unwind, right?
Right.
And then when I leave home to go to work, I put the same thing in, and that gets me prepared for work. But you got to do those things that you like to do, and you have to practice self-care as well. That's really important.
So just checking, you still have someone now that you can check in with when things get tough?
Yeah, so this is a funny story. Is we had a mandatory, we call them neck-up checkups, which I'd love for us to continue doing, but it's a funding thing. But with those mandatory neck-up checkups after the parade, we'd have to once a year mandatory go talk to a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is my second one, and I'm talking to I don't know if I want to say her name was Heather. And I telling Heather, I said, I'm fine, I'm doing great, but why do I have a tear that still comes down my eye for no reason? And she's like, that's cortisol stuff still leaving your body from all the trauma from years before because now you're starting to relax. This is 34 years in this profession. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
You never know how much a toll it takes until you kind of step back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm actually doing rituals to handle it in a positive way and recognize it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And because I thought my tears, I was being a wuss, I thought I was getting soft, maybe I'm getting older. No, that's just a natural biological effects of trauma. And so I'm still learning. And that's another thing I love about this job. I'm learning every day. Still continuing to learn things. And what else I love about this, you asked us earlier, is there's times where you think you've seen it all. You come in the next day like, okay, this is new.
Yeah.
I never expected to ever see this. Here we go. So then we meet with the team, like, how are we going to problem solve this? Love it. Let's do it. So
Yeah, I imagine that's got to be something that you never know what you're going to come into any given day, and
Whether it be good or bad.
Right.
Exactly, right? It's like a box of chocolates from Forrest Gump. You don't know what
yeah,
you're going to get till you open it up, right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a little bit some more lighthearted questions.
Yeah,
now.
excellent.
Change the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
So what is the most adventurous thing that you've ever done, and would you do it again? This can be like unrelated to anything police, just something you've done in your personal life, whether you're young or when you're older.
Yeah, so I, well, besides defusing bombs,
Yeah, I imagine that's pretty exciting. It's about as exciting as it can get, I imagine.
this is funny, is I am not a fan of heights. There's something about heights that just...
Do you have an upper limit of, like, I can get on a ladder to put up decorations kind of a thing, or anything?
Well, I just put up lights, the first level of lights. I got up on the ladder. Oh my gosh, I was high stress, but I forced myself to work through it. So going on top of the Chicago, is it Empire State Building?
Chicago, the Sears Tower?
Sears
The Willis
Tower.
Sears Tower, Willis Tower,
Yeah.
John Hancock Building, one of those two.
John Hancock Building, that's what it is. And challenged myself to go up there. Oh my gosh, that was incredible. So my daughter knows, my 15-year-old knows that I don't like heights. So we were on vacation recently. We went to the Seattle, the Needle,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a thing that's all glass that you can walk and look straight down.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing this angel stuff, laying on her back. I was like, no way.
So I'm guessing at the John Hancock building you didn't do the ledge thing that they have where it tips out 45 degrees in a glass box.
Yeah,
No.
But I've done Whitewater Rapids, level 4 in Montana, and that was awesome. I've actually done, even though I'm afraid of heights, rappelling from the Milwaukee Mile, the stage, down for SWAT training. I got to do stuff in helicopters, pretty neat stuff that was kind of work related. But I'm always, I like hiking and I love being outdoors, just sitting outdoors, and doing things like that. And I think all those are just good things to do as a challenge yourself. But you should never let your fear overpower you. Recognize it, and try to challenge it. I think those are good things. But there are some things like, I don't think I can jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
I have a fear, but I have my limits.
Yeah. You see, out of your heights things that you had mentioned, I'm like, okay, you're securely attached. You're securely
Yes,
attached.
all that stuff's like so important, right?
You say, yeah. So you're rappelling down. You're harnessed in pretty well. Anything in a helicopter, I imagine you're harnessed in pretty well.
Yeah.
And so would you do zip lining where you're harnessed in, where it's a little bit higher up?
So that's something my wife wants to do, and I'll do it. But just thinking about it, I feel anxiety.
And you
already.
say, it's
Yeah.
gonna take a couple minutes to get the gumption to do it.
Yeah, but my kids will challenge me and they'll peer pressure me into doing it. Yeah.
So if you could instantly become an expert in any skill or hobby, what would it be and why?
If I could be an expert in a skill or hobby, so I think it would be, and this is going to sound kind of funny, is making art with clay.
Okay.
That to me sounds like it'd be really fun to do. And here's why: is going back to my bomb tech, I can blow stuff up and break stuff really good. Fixing things, mechanical stuff, not so good. So by just, I think molding clay would be therapeutic. And it's something that could last forever if you don't break it.
Right.
But what I love about it is that, to me, so I've been in martial arts I started martial arts when I was 6 and been involved in through my whole life journey. When we talk about molding that clay, that's the love about it, because you can shape it and you can see the good in it. And it doesn't matter what other people think. Is that journey of molding that and creating something that you did is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I think that's one of them.
I like that.
Yeah.
The way you said it, where it's like you might not be good at like working or tinkering on things, but you can defuse a bomb. I could see just now in my head you trying to fix something and just getting frustrated, being like, I can defuse a bomb, but why can't I fix
say
this?
all the time. Computers is another thing.
Yeah.
And I actually diffused some complicated systems in my career. Fixing a computer or something with the thermostat, I'm like, how can I deal with this series parallel circuit, but I can't do this? This boggles my mind. Yeah.
It's like the saying, like, it's not rocket science. It's not bomb defusal.
It's so funny.
Good. So what is the most unusual or interesting job you've ever had? I know you've been doing police work for a while, so is there anything that you did before police that might have been a little bit more interesting?
I don't think anything's more interesting than, because what I get paid to see and do, there's no other job where you get to see the things that we see and do. And working undercover, I got to do some pretty neat things. Bomb squad and training with different teams and military teams, and learning from actually doing training with Navy SEAL people and working with doctors in explosives and going to the FBI laboratory where they actually have the evidence from all these different bombings, like the shoe bomber and things like that, where I get to go see those things. So the most interesting, there's so many. It's hard to pick one. But my prior life to being a police officer, I was a production control manager at a factory plant, and it just wasn't. I was doing well, but it just wasn't. I knew I needed to do more.
Sure. I can imagine it can only be so exciting.
Yeah. So that's a tough one because there's so many different awesome little things I got to experience and be a part of, and working with great people. So
yeah, no, that's good. I mean, we've talked about a bunch of them too, so I'm sure it's not going to go unknown on what that answer might be.
So you talked about part of your ritual of kind of winding down from work is, listening to audiobooks and the sci-fi books. So what's your favorite book you've been listening to? And then kind of with that, is there I've kind of a follow-up on that after you answer this one then.
So I love Tom Clancy's books. But with the movies, the Star Wars.
Great choice.
Yeah, I just love the Star Wars stuff. But books-wise, I read a lot of leadership books. Ironically, Turn the Ship Around is one. But one of my favorite books is from Bill George. And it's True North is the name of the book. And that's another authentic leadership, but he interviewed over 100 CEOs. And what I love about it is it talks about every single one of these large CEOs all failed at one point. But in that failure, they were not going to let that define them. They're going to actually take that failure and become successful. So it's those life's crucibles that define our character. Is you're going to fall, you get back up, and you move forward. And I take those principles and I apply them to my personal, my work life. Don't be afraid to fall down. Falling down is not failing. Making mistakes is not failing. Letting that define you, I think, is a failure. Right?
And learning to fail faster too. Of okay, you failed. Learning to overcome that failure and keep the hill and step back up again.
And own it and move forward, right? And I think that's outstanding.
And then the follow-up to that is, there's a lot of portrayal of police on TV.
Oh, my gosh, you're going to get me going.
Yeah. So do you agree with how it's portrayed on TV? And if so, what is the most accurate you've seen on TV for?
Here's where I'm frustrated is if you look at most movies today and shows, they always show some negative aspect to police being dirty, doing all these negative things, and that's a big push in the movies, and that creates a false perception of police officers. What I love is when I was growing up in my youth, they had this show called Adam 12 and Emergency and these different, where they actually portrayed them in a good light. I think that's really important. Now, when I watch real-time, like Bad Boys or they'd have these SWAT shows or even movies where I'm watching police officers do things, my wife will laugh at me because I look at the tactics like, there's no way. There's no way you should do that. And I get frustrated because a lot of these shows, they actually show actual techniques that we use, like bomb squad stuff. Why are we showing all that stuff, how we render things safe? Why are we doing that?
Right.
The movie The Hurt Locker. And I don't know how true this is, but before the war started in 2003-2004 war in Iraq, we were training at Fort McCoy. And we were training with their EOD, their bomb squad team. And I would be engaged with this one sergeant who was a bomb tech. Well, in that movie, when I saw him during one of the leaves,
Mhm.
he's telling stories 100% consistent with, like the story where you learn looking Hurt Locker where he's running with the bomb suit.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that was the guy. And I think there's other things that validate that he's the guy. I never saw him again because he went overseas, but
Right.
But when you see that cockiness, I've actually seen it. And then when you see people that are reserved, I've seen that. But a lot of that is drama. So the most real, they put a lot of, I don't know if it's drama or they enhance it. So there was one recently that I saw that was pretty real and spot on. Oh, it's Trigger. It's a British BritBox.
Okay.
They're showing actual techniques in there. Like, holy smokes, I can relate to that.
Uh-huh.
Another one in the early days, in my undercover days, the movie The Wire, minus them putting cops doing foolish things in there. But how some of the bad guys are operating, how they're dealing their dope and all that, I was like, that is spot on. But when they do things like that, when they hire consultants to put factual stuff in there, well, adversaries learn from that
Right.
as well.
They learn
right?
the methods and they
then
know
we-
what to expect.
Then we got to change up right? It's a cat and mouse game all the time. So, yeah.
So it's really a double-edged sword of everything. Of,
Yeah, it sounds like it.
there's some things that are done well, some things that are done incredibly poorly that put police and the entire career in a bad light.
Oh, it is. And you see, like, in the cops, where you see the officers being short with people. Well, there's really no reason for that. And, like, again, you see them going right up to the window of a car. That's not good.
No, I think there's plenty of times I'm watching live PD or on patrol live, and it's like that seems hazardous what you're doing there, and it doesn't.
But it
seem
doesn't
quite
make
right.
the TV.
Yeah, and then I put that on steroids. My wife's like, you don't need to be watching it. But my wife loves First 48. She loves all these homicide investigations. Well, that I really don't watch. And the reason why is because I work in homicide for all those years.
A little too close to home.
Yeah. And this is a funny story, too. So my wife works at the U.S. Attorney's Office. As I get home from a homicide case, my wife would ask me all these questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Well, at the time, we were leading the nation with clearances. We had a 93% clearance rate in Milwaukee.
And what does that kind of entail? Is it like solved?
Yeah, solving homicide.
Okay.
And that's a high figure. And you're talking 100-plus murders, right? But I worked with some amazing detectives, learned from some amazing detectives. And she'd be like, did you do this? Did you do that? I'm like, I work with professionals. But there'd be times where like, she's right, I'm going to go back and make sure we did this. But I wouldn't tell her that.
Yeah.
Right. She knows now.
Right, yeah. It's pretty funny, but it's the truth. So she'll watch those shows. Those I don't watch a lot because it does put me back into some... And that's something, too, is those smells. There'll be certain smells that trigger your memory on something or see something or a certain thing on TV. So watch a lot of those homicide things. And I'll get frustrated, too, when they do these interviews. Like, why are you asking that question? I'm like, I don't need that.
That case is over already.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
So now, if you could time travel, would you go to the past or would you go to the future?
Ooh, good question.
And if so, how far back? How far in either direction as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking if I could keep the knowledge I have now, I might go back. But then I'm like, would I want to go back without bathrooms and all the stuff that we have?
The modern amenities are pretty nice.
Yeah.
So then, like, I'd probably like to go. So going back would be safe. But I don't operate in a safe zone. So I'd have to go to the future just to see what's new, see what's out there.
Right.
And because I'm so excited. So good example is the movie Terminator. You look at that movie, even Star Wars and some of these movies, you look at those movies, that stuff that were so far-fetched. That stuff is not far-fetched anymore.
No, it's
right?
Yeah.
With artificial intelligence. So we are graduating, leaving the information age. I think we're now in the AI age. And now we got to catch up. In every aspects, public and private sector, we got to catch up to this AI age. So going to the future, like we might not have cars that drive on roads. We'll probably be in the air. I'd love to.
You can see, I think the Jetsons are slightly becoming more realistic. Starting
RoboCop,
soon.
right? I think that's all future.
You can say, I think there was even talks of like there's actually an early test of a RoboCop kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So,
or at least RoboCop 2 or whatever it was, where they actually had the more robotic one, not the android one.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'd just be curious to see that stuff in the future. So I'd go to the future.
All right. If you could go back in time, so we're going to have you go back in time for this one, and tell your younger self some advice or some words of advice, what would you say?
Ooh, that's a really good question. There's so many things. I would tell myself, always try to do the right thing, and always be a leader, not a follower. These are things I actually kind of did. I hate to say it, but I tell myself that the biggest one I'd be is not to be afraid to be vulnerable and not to be afraid to open up with others. Because I kind of came up, my mom was ill a lot, so I had to take care of her a lot. So I really didn't have a childhood. I had to do a lot of adult things.
You had to grow quickly.
As a child. So I tell myself, you're going to be fine. Knowing what I know now, back then I'm like, how am I going to... I tell myself, you're going to be fine. Just do the right thing. Keep God at the forefront of your life, and everything else will fall into place.
I think everyone could use that advice.
Right,
No matter how many twists and turmoils you'll end up in, that things will work out. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be a year from now, but it'll be fine as long as you wake up. Just saw a video over the weekend that was, any given day there's, I think it was 250,000 people are passing away every day.
Isn't that incredible?
And as long as you wake up, you can celebrate. You're alive. You're ready to go. You're good. And it says out of those 250,000 people, there's probably 2 to 3 million people that are grieving those people lost. And it said you can celebrate that day that you're not grieving a lost loved one or a friend or anything like that.
So good point. And we shouldn't take things for granted. We should appreciate every day. And practicing gratitude, that goes back to practicing gratitude. So, and the other thing I tell myself is don't be afraid to try new things, and don't be so worried about making a mistake. Go out there and learn. And like I said, keep God at the forefront, and everything else will be gravy.
Yeah. So kind of going back to, heavier things again.
Yeah.
So what biggest issues that Waukesha faces from a public safety perspective, and what is being done to help address those issues?
So one of our biggest issues is mental health. And I think our mental health system, in every aspect, from how we take care of them in facilities, in our criminal justice system, is failing. We're criminalizing mental health, and to me that's a big issue.
Right.
And what I don't want to do is have to use force on someone that's going through a mental health crisis. So we're trying to be proactive in Waukesha Police Department by having embedded crisis workers, embedded with our police officers, engaging in the mental health community and building those relationships and ensuring that they're taking their medications and all those type of things. That is a help, but we still have a long ways to go, because I get frustrated where we'll have someone who's in crisis, we'll take them to a mental health facility, and within 24 hours they're out. Well, how are we releasing somebody that's still combative into the community? It's frustrating. It's a cycle that we need to change. That cycle. If we had the answer to that, we'd be making a lot of money.
Right. Because there's not an easy way. If you have someone who's having a crisis and they don't want to be at a location, don't want to be institutionalized isn't the right word for it, but they don't want to be put into somewhere for a long period of time because they don't fully feel at the time that they need to be there.
Yes, I agree. And what we need to do is all the stakeholders, we play a part in it, but we got to be in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be in the fight to do better. And each of us has a role. But that is something that's not going to go away. So we got to be engaged in helping mitigate this and try and get to the root of what's causing it. Another issue is opioid. But I do think there's a solution to that. We know where the precursors are coming from. We know where a lot of the drugs are coming from. What we need to do, though, is be engaged with our community members and help them. My ultimate goal is we engage someone who's survived an overdose, help getting them the resources so they don't recidivate. That's not an easy task because they have to make a choice, too, of not to recidivate, and they have to make a choice to actually use the resources that are available to them so they can change their life. But we got to be in the fight because there's always that small percentage that does, and that's a win, right? But those are big challenges for us. Another one is the mentality of doing more with less. Finances is a big item, right? And that concerns me at times as well. But we are blessed in this city compared to many other cities. We are blessed. But that's something that we got to stay on top of.
So if there's anyone out there who has these mental crises or are struggling with opioids, what are the best resources available for them to kind of help once they want to make that change? Where's the best routes for them to go?
So that's a very good question. We have a very good, robust public health department that can help them, that has resources. We also have good facilities within Waukesha that can help. They can also call us. We can get them where they need to go to help them.
With, I imagine, not calling an emergency line unless it is an emergency.
Thank you for saying that. Very, 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 very good point. But once you think you need help, then seek it. Right? Go seek it. And it's very easy to Google. Also, you can also call 988. You can call 988 as a good resource. But get the help. And when you feel like you're in crisis, especially if you're at a point on the opioid side where you're trying to do better and you feel yourself getting that itch, get that intervention before.
Right, before you delve back into it again.
And I know it's easier said than done, but even though they might not think so, there is people that care about them, and we care about them. We want all of our citizens, we want all of our community members to live healthy, good quality lives where they're not being hurt by opioid addiction, where they are getting help that they need for whatever mental health condition that they have. And you can be successful in not being afraid to say that you have to take medication for anxiety or whatever it is. Get the help that you need. And find those support networks that can help you get through it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on anxiety medication daily at this point, and it does its job. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. It's not necessarily fun to start, but even then, it's something that, you know, if you have the resource available to you and you can't. I mean, that's the other tricky part, is if you can afford it, or if there's, you know, even if you need to find those resources. I think the 211 line, I think, can also help you find that
Good
as well.
point. Yeah.
So if you need to help find those avenues to help make life more affordable and find those little helping hands along the way, basically.
And that's one of, getting back to my passion with the police department, is most police officers are alphas. And there's this thing that we're macho, we don't need to get help, and if we do get help, we look like we're weak. That's one blessing I think we have. We removed that stigma for the most part. Where it's okay to be vulnerable, like I said, and it's okay to get help. It's okay to talk to somebody. So if you have a mob of friends and they're not doing it, or your family's not doing it, then go get professional help, and it's okay, but get the help.
Right.
Don't stay in that rut. Move forward, be a leader, and be courageous. So a lot of police officers, if there was an event going on here where we had to go through a door knowing that we might get shot, we're going to go regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That courage is there. Where our challenge is having the courage to get the help when you don't feel right at times.
Mm-hmm.
That also takes courage, right? We got to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just taking that first step to go in the right direction, and
Yeah.
you may discover it's not the right solution, and then you can find another avenue. But
But get the
you
help.
at least took the step in the right direction.
Be courageous and get the help.
Yeah. Once you get that ball rolling too, sometimes it's a lot easier to keep it going too.
Yep. Exactly.
100%.
So one of the challenges that you did mention was sometimes it can be financial stuff for the police department. So now, if you had unlimited funds to either do something or acquire something for the police department, what would you do?
I look for one thing futuristic is I'd like to have, and there is some software in place. There's software that can go into our CAD system, whatever CAD we end up getting.
Mm-hmm.
That will
And-
send an alert that, hey, this officer has been involved in multiple trauma incidents, where we can actually go and use that data to go make sure that they get help.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to use artificial intelligence to help with wellness and resiliency within the police department as well.
Mm-hmm.
And use artificial intelligence on looking at data to help officers make better informed decision making,
Mm-hmm.
and artificial intelligence to help with community engagement, where the community can actively engaged interactively with the police department with the use of AI to help in certain crime prevention or trends or things of that nature, where we can actually be proactive in solving things. So there's so many different things. If we had unlimited money, so many different technologies and software to bring into the police department to create force multipliers for our officers and the community. But I will say this: there is no technology out there. There's no artificial intelligence out there that can replace the investment in our people.
Mm-hmm.
You need good training. You need good police officers. So another thing, if I had unlimited money, I'd create more training time for our officers, because the best training, the two things that get police departments in trouble, is lack of supervision and lack of training. So those would be two things I'd really focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally, if we get more police officers, that'd be phenomenal.
Right.
But I learned that we do not have infinite amount of money.
Yeah.
So we have to make the best
Mm-hmm.
with what we have, with minimal complaining. Complaining's not worth it. Just let's do the best with what we got. Let's focus on our bubble, and let's move the city and our department forward.
Mm-hmm. Love
So
that.
then kind of speaking on those technologies, are there technologies that you've seen become part of the police department's arsenal, or I don't know if arsenal is the right word, but just like
Flock cameras is a big one.
yeah. So I was like, what
like-
what technologies are
yeah.
you like?
So
or more
flock cameras is a big one that license plate readers been really keeping our community safe, because stolen cars, cars that are wanted crossing the border,
Mm-hmm.
we're actually doing interdictions before they actually get into their part of our city, and we recovered guns and drugs that were coming into our city. So before a bad event could happen, we're actually getting it. Here's a wish list. If I had infinite, is one of the things I'm really interested in getting for our department is I'd like for us to have some type of biometrics that we could either put on a watch or with a ring or on our body-worn camera that would alert us that one of the things that a big killer of police officers is heart attacks.
Mm-hmm.
That would alert that, hey, your heartbeat is high, you're at risk. Or notify dispatch. Dispatch would call the officer and say, do you need help?
Mm-hmm.
And get them the help before they actually physically have a heart attack in
Yeah.
the car. So that's a wish list.
You say, I know I've seen that they've got smart rings that have that kind
Yeah.
of thing where you just put it on and then it can send it to your phone, but I don't know about that connection with dispatch or not yet. But
So that's a wish list. But other technologies, we have... so data is important.
mm-hmm.
But intelligence to me is more important. So good data in is good data out.
Mm-hmm.
So having technologies that will help take that data and turn into intelligence. What intelligence means, At least my definition, I got this from Kelly is his last name. I can't remember. It's Rob Kelly, I think his name is, who works for the state. But he said intelligence in the simplest form is information that provides a decision-making advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So having softwares that can actually pull data from RMS, pull data from public sources,
Mm-hmm.
where we can see trends, where we can actually use that data to do focused engagements.
Mm-hmm.
That's ideally where I'd like for us to go. And there are some technologies that we're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm trying to convince our city administrator and our finance director to get us there. So,
And all of this kind of sounds, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people like, oh, this sounds like overstepping in Big Brother thing, but it's like, no, this is all very great tools just for solving.
So you bring a good point too. None of it is Big Brother. In fact, the cameras I'm talking about are all in public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
There's more Big Brother in our phones
Mm-hmm.
than
100%.
any other technologies.
Yeah, if you say one, if I said a product now, we'll say
It's incredible.
If we say Pepsi now, I'm sure there's going to be people who are getting ads for Pepsi on their phone because I just said the word Pepsi 3 times.
It's incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be responsible, and we have rules and policies in place for our technologies that we have. Like, we cannot access the license plate reader data unless we have some type of criminal nexus
Mm-hmm.
to it. We just can't do it for the sake of doing it. We have to explain the why when we're actually looking at things,
Mm-hmm.
so it's easy for us to audit it. And I understand the concepts of Big Brother, but we're going back to AIH. We gotta be cognizant of the deep fake stuff going on with.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge
and
problem.
Where the cyber type things that are going on, and how adversaries can actually start using that to also attack
Mm-hmm.
first responders in a deep fake way. So we gotta find ways to counter that.
Right.
And we got to use technology to protect our kids.
Mm-hmm.
With AI and things of that nature, we have to use certain technologies to keep our public safe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that balancing of quality life, that balancing of privacy for security.
Yeah.
Right? And me, I'd rather have these out there to keep my family and my kids
Mm-hmm.
safe than not.
And it's always the fun side of things too. We're like, as long as you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry
You
about.
got
Yeah.
nothing, yeah. There's cameras everywhere. I'm okay. I got nothing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that is funny when my wife and I were dating, and then we get married. I said, "Well, what's one of the things that attracted you to me?" And she's like, "You had no game." I'm like, okay, but what I mean by that is what you see is what you get,
Uh-huh.
right? Being very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Got nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things is you become chief is the transparency of here's our struggles, here's our successes,
Right.
here's who we are. This
Yeah, there's no reason to hide anything.
No,
Right.
there really isn't. Or keep secrets. Why?
yeah.
Send it.
All right, so we're going to finish out with some rapid fire questions for you. You don't have to give an explanation to any of these unless you
Okay.
want to. All right, so are you an early bird or are you a night owl?
I'm an early bird. 4:30 a.m. this morning.
Oh, coffee or tea?
I'm a coffee guy. And tea, though, but I'm coffee. Coffee in the morning, tea at night.
There you go.
Love it.
Favorite season of the year?
Right now is summer.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Ooh. Right at the moment, it's toffee-covered peanuts.
Ooh. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Sweet or savory?
I think I'm sweet.
Favorite sport to watch or play?
Football. I love watching the Packers.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh. There's a flavor called drumstick
Mm-hmm.
at Culver's. I love it.
Love it.
Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted?
That's funny you say that because I consider myself an introvert, but my job is being extroverted.
An introverted extrovert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your favorite type of music?
So I wanted to go see Justin Timberlake,
Mm-hmm.
but they changed the concert. I like most types of music. Listen, not much country. My mom liked the country, so I listened to it, but more of a pop, Christian music.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of that, and but I'm pretty flexible. Sometimes I'll even throw on reggae music.
Mhm.
It depends on my mood at the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite color?
It's always been green,
Green. Any specific shade of green?
like grass color green.
Grass green.
All right.
Yeah.
And then candies. Do you like more fruity candies or chocolate candies?
Oh my gosh, chocolate candies.
Chocolate candies. All right, and then let's end it out. You're known for your jokes, whether it be dad jokes. You said your mama jokes, anything like that. Do you have a favorite joke, dad joke, that you like to share?
I do, and it's kind of inappropriate, but I'm going to send it. Is what do you call somebody who does not pass gas in public?
I don't know.
A private tutor.
And I think that's a wonderful place to end
Yes.
this.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for being on the podcast. And of course, if you seem like you're an open guy, so if anyone has, if they want to reach out to you in any way, what's the best way they can get in contact with you?
Call non-emergency, and I'm an open book, and we're all in this together. So
All right.
Wonderful. Well,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. We hope you enjoyed diving into the heart of our city with us.
If you have a story to share or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media at City of Waukesha on Facebook. We love hearing from our listeners.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. It really helps us spread the word.
As always, thanks for tuning in to Talkin' Waukesha, where every conversation springs to life.